All right, so I've gotten to a point now on this wiring harness. I just had a buddy come over, and he's done a couple of these swaps, so he gave me some pointers and some what to look for. So we've discovered that this is a 99 to 02 Vortec harness. So so first off, here, let me just pull this off here real quick. Okay, so Amazon did me good. These are supposed to be red, these little caps. So this is supposed to be a blue and red harness, not blue and green. Mine is blue and green. I have these guys labeled here, green, blue. Now, knowing that, we printed off the pinouts for the blue and red and compared them to my blue and green pinouts. And then we went through and we actually verified some of the connections by figuring out what colors these wires were and then verifying them at the whichever said connector up there. So we verified that this is a blue and red harness, and then we went ahead and looked at these pins and we compared this blue pinout versus my blue pinout on the engine, my stock engine that I'm running. And I'm confined to whichever harness that I'm using because of this ECM right here. So this is the ECM that came with my truck. And so this is the ECM that I'm using. Now, there were a lot of differences. So any of the X's or the stars. It's hard for you to see. There we go. See all those X's? So there were a whole bunch of differences, and that was just on the very first pin. So the blue one. We didn't even go into the red one because by the time we got through this one, we decided that it was going to be no good. Now, if I were to use that, so the pinout, essentially, if you look at these numbers here, those are these numbers here on the back side of this connector. So that's what the pinout is. So the pinout really just says which one of these wires goes to which one of those connectors. And this is just the legend that explains this. Now, we have elected not to use this one. I have elected not to use this one because changing the entire pinout of all of these wires would be a huge headache. And then on top of that, I have to modify some of the actual connectors down there. So by sticking with this one, I maintain the correct pinout. I have to modify some of the power supplies here, which like that little fuse block there. So there's like 6 or 7 fuses and then 2 relays. This guy here. How many fuses? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 fuses and 2 relays. That is a lot less wires, those ones here, to modify than all of these wires. So I will make my own fuse block. I will retain my cruise control switches. I'm just going to throw a cruise control switch in this so I can I can actually cruise this car. Yeah, I'm going to take this. I'm going to get rid of this stuff here, push it off the table. We don't need that anymore. I'm going to take these. I'm going to plug them into the ECM, and I'm going to stretch this harness out, and I'm going to clean it up, and I'm going to simplify it, and I'm going to untangle all of these wires. And then I need to figure out the ECM in this car sits right behind this black thing. So that's going to be my bulkhead. My wiring harness sits, here I'll show you. Wiring harness in this guy is going to sit, the ECM is going to sit right in here. I have a little nice tray built for it. And then the hole is on the back of the firewall up there. And then the wires come out of the bottom of this. And they're going to drop down through here, drop down there, and then come up the back of the engine. So I don't need very much wiring. It's not going to come in, like I don't need a crazy length of wiring, and I'm going to hide it. So I have to modify the wiring anyways and the length of the wires. So if I were to keep this harness, I would have to de-pin and re-pin everything. I would have to modify a few of the connections up there. And then I would have to cut the connections to length. So that is no good. That is not what I'm going to do. That is the plan. Keep this one, clean it up, run it, figure out the length that I'm going to use, and then loom it. That's the plan. Moving on. Voila. Tons of work.